This video we're going to be talking about aortic arch branches. We can actually separate the branches of the systemic circulation into three parts, starting from aorta to arch, and descending aorta, which is divided into three parts: thoracic, abdominal, and iliac, which supplies the lower limbs. In this video, we're going to be focusing more on aortic arch and how these blood branches supplies different parts of the upper limbs and your brain. So we're going to be starting with aorta. Your left ventricle receives blood from the left atrium, the oxygenated blood. So these blood pumps through the aorta, reaches aortic arch. From the aortic arch, we have three possible branches. First one is brachiocephalic trunk, located on the right side of the body. And second possibility is left common carotid artery. Third possible is left subclavian artery. Let's talk about brachiocephalic first. So brachiocephalic trunk is located on the right side of your body. Further branches down into right side common carotid artery, right side subclavian artery. If you compare with the left side has their own branches, but the right side is going to be branching off from brachiocephalic. This is due to anatomical differences. Your heart is closer to your left side. Therefore, there's more spaces towards your left side compared to the right side. That's it. But okay, that's not important. So, alright. So these brachiocephalic will further branch down into right side, common carotid, and subclavian. From common carotid artery, we have two possibilities: internal and external carotid artery. Of course, there's left and right side. So these internal is important for supplying the anterior portion of the brain, the front part of the brain, compared to your left vertebral artery, which branches off from subclavian artery. Your vertebral artery is important for supplying the posterior aspect of your brain. So your brain receives blood supply from two major arteries, which is the internal carotid artery, supplying the front, and left vertebral artery, supplying the back of the brain. So, subclavian artery has two possibilities. First one is mentioned is the vertebral artery, which will supply the back of the brain. And soon, your subclavian artery makes a turn on the axillary region. It's called the axillary artery, located just above the axilla, and there's no significant indication of which part is axillary, but from your clavicles to your humerus is considered axillary artery. Compared to your venous circulation, there's distinct region that has an axillary, but in this case, for the systemic circulation, axillary is just considered the whole part from your shoulder and all the way to your beginning of your arm, upper limbs. So that'll be the axillary. So axillary further break it down into left brachial artery in this case. Yes. So brachial artery will supply your biceps, your triceps, and upper portion of your arm. And then at the elbow region, brachial artery divides into two arteries. One towards the medial is called the ulnar. That's where your ulnar bones are located. and we have the radial towards the lateral side of your body, which supplies the tissue surrounding the radial bone. And at the wrist point, these two arteries will fuse together to form deep and superficial palmar branches. So deep palmar branches is going to face the top of your hand, while your superficial palmar branches will supply the palm side of your hand. So deep towards the top, superficial towards the palm. This is because due to the anatomical standing, where your palms are facing towards the interior, therefore it's called the superficial. Don't get confused. So deep supplying the top of the hand, superficial supplying the palm side of the hand. So these palmar branches will supply further even down to your fingers, which will carry the oxygen to your fingers. You need to move your fingers, so you need those. Alright. So important things to remember is that your ulnar and right side and radial join together to form deep palmar branches and superficial palmar branches. And your right common carotid artery and right subclavian branches off from brachiocephalic trunk. There's a typo. It's not an artery, it's a trunk. Right side artery branches off the same as left side. So I didn't put the right side axillary artery because it's going to be the same from the subclavian level. So this is a basic aortic arch branches. So I'm going to summarize this in the next slide right here. Alright, so we have three possible branches: left common carotid artery, left subclavian, and brachiocephalic trunk. It's only on the right side. And brachiocephalic trunk gives rise to your right common carotid and right subclavian. So now we both have left and right. And your common carotid artery will give rise to internal and external carotid. External will supply the facial, your faces, lower jaws, mostly on your face. And internal will supply the anterior portion of the cerebrum. So your front of the brain will be supplied by internal common carotid. Alright, your subclavian will give rise to your vertebral arteries, which is supplying the posterior cerebral portion. And these vertebrae will pass to your transverse foramina of your cervical spinal cord and will enter to the back to your head, usually foramen magnum, which is the large hole that your spinal cord passes through to connect with your skull. And another branches off from subclavian is the axillary. And from the axillary, it's going to branch down into brachial. Brachial will further branches down into ulnar and radial. And these two, ulnar and radial, will fuse together at the wrist point to form superficial and deep palmar arches, which will either supply the top of your hand and the bottom of your hand, the palm side of your hand. So superficial will supply the palm side and deep will supply the top of your hand. Alright, in this video, it's just talking about aortic arch. And next video, we're going to be talking more about the blood supply to your cerebrum.